This is the Impunity Observer podcast. Fergus Hodgson, your host and publisher of the Impunity Observer, and I have the privilege this week to speak with Adam Dubove. He is my go-to man in Argentina, and we're going to explore let's say, a one-year check-in. A year ago, we did a podcast, Argentina's Libertarian Moment, examining with Eduardo Marti, another great man in Argentina, the outcome of the presidential election in Argentina, and we're going to examine Javier Milei's legacy, or let's almost like a scorecard after 1 year. Now, just a little bit of background on Adam Dubove. You can find him on X at Dubdam, or Dubdam, and he is a financial entrepreneur and longtime liberty advocate, a great man and a friend of mine. And his financial firm is Ichimoku Fibonacci. But we'll have the links in the show notes, so please go to impunityobserver.com to get those. Also, I want to just mention that I note him in the acknowledgments of my book. He really has assisted me with my understanding of Argentina in particular. So, Adam, welcome back to the show. I've always loved having you on. And when we spoke last time, there was almost this confusion as to how did this even happen. I could hardly believe it. So, but at the same time, you and I know that it's not just enough to have one man in a political position. So I didn't necessarily have high hopes. So at 1 year ago, were you hopeful that anything would actually change, that one man in the presidency would actually turn Argentina around and do some kind of flash liberalization? Would it actually come to anything? How optimistic were you at that time?
Well, not at all. First, glad to be back here and discussing
Yeah.
with you Argentina and these interesting times we are living. No, not at all. I mean, Milei was so like a madman, a crazy man shouting on TV things about Austrian economics, shouting about individual liberties, shouting against collectivism. And you say this is a like interesting character, but will he have the resources to move forward and implement his ideas? And it was a total surprise. The political power and the political strategy that he deployed when he took office. He started with very bold moves, even with a very, very weak presence in Congress, with only like 30 deputies out of 250 or so, and only 8 senators out of 60, 65. So you think how he will be able to make his campaign promises reality. And what he did was, first, I think it was really, there was a social check for Milei to start implementing these reforms. People was really tired and exhausted of the chaos and economic chaos we were living last year, with prices increasing every twice a week, really crazy regulations to import stuff. The last months of the previous government, we were having shortages in the supermarket, or even rationing, such as like you could buy 2 packs of coffee per family, and it was a limited purchases. And you didn't know what your salary would buy you at the end of the month when you were paid at the first days of the month. Then at the end of the month, there was no certainty of what were you able to purchase. So people started going to the stock market in order to leave their money at money market funds. So it's really crazy, because people all over the world, you talked about about money markets, like the average person, and they wouldn't know what are those. But here in Argentina, everyone was using it to protect the purchase power of their money, of their income. So I think Milei started with, as I said, 2 bold moves: the Ley Bases, which was a bill of around 600 articles. It got passed 6 months later, after it was introduced in Congress, with around 250 articles. So it was heavily trimmed in the political negotiations in order to have it passed. But this legislation, this piece of legislation, transformed in a way the regulatory environment in Argentina, and it states that government should always respect property rights, should promote an open free market, should repeal all the privileges of the so-called casta, or the case, that was one of the Milei's main talking points in campaign. So this piece of legislation, along with the decree, an executive order he issued the first days in government with another 300 articles, started or triggered what is a wave of the regulation that we are living in Argentina these days.
A bit of context: prior to Milei getting into office, you had Alberto Fernandez and Cristina Kirchner of the, is it Justicialista party?
Yes, los peronistas.
Yeah, the Peronista party. And so, but I imagine they would have done many things via executive order, right? So that can be undone by the president.
Yes, but that was not the case with previous government. One of the things that really impressed the Argentines when Milei took office is that he really took seriously the exercise of power. He said yesterday in the CPAC event here in Argentina that if we don't have the power, and if we libertarians don't exercise the power, then the leftists will take it over. So he's always trying to show that he is in control. Previous government was very, there was a lot of internal fighting between the different factions of the Peronist party. So it was almost paralyzed. What you said is correct, that there is a lot of regulation that can be undone just with executive orders or ministry resolutions. That not only happened the previous year, but the last 50, 60, 70 years in Argentina. So, for example, the ley bases, this legislation that was the first law that he passed in Congress, repeal legislation from the 1960s, 1970s that was completely out of date. It was, for example, it would allow government to decide what supermarkets should put in the shelves, and how much a brand can take of a full shelf. And you would even see people, government employees, going to supermarkets with a measuring tape and checking if the market was complying with regulations. So I think every single day, or almost every day, there is a new deregulation going on, which is in charge of the regulation ministry, which is kind of the Dodge, what inspired the Dodge office, run by Federico Sturzenegger, who is making some changes that, if you saw them isolated, they are very small changes that most people say, oh, this does not have a real impact on my life. But we're starting to see the effects of these little regulations that would use one regulation after another one. You start seeing the effects of having more variety of products in the supermarket, less, some prices are even decreasing because of more competition from abroad, because the Argentine market Argentina has one of the most protected economies in the world. I mean, it's if you look at the economic freedom index, you'll find Argentina, along with Sudan, Zimbabwe, some African countries. There's a lot to do. He has just started, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
Whoa, I'm almost shocked to hear you give such a positive overview because like I said, I just have seen this as a Herculean task to turn around Argentina because of let's say, problems built up over so many years. Now, and I have seen, I hate to say this is one of the problems with libertarians, that they just complain a lot and call everyone a socialist, right? It's the stereotype, or a neocon. And I have seen many people on X saying, "Oh, he's just turned out to be a neocon," or whatever it may be. Let's let's get to some issues though that foreigners would understand. Did Javier Milei shut down the public broadcasting service?
Not yet. That was one of the companies that was included in the basis legislation to privatize, but he included like 50 companies in that bill, and only 4 got passed by Congress. So he doesn't have the authority yet to close the public broadcasting service. Although they have reduced the size of the structure, they have fired many people, and they are streamlining. At least they are streamlining the how it works, because as you can imagine, like after 20 years of Peronist governments in Argentina, there was like the cousin of the janitor of the ministry, and everyone was like working because of connection and political favors.
Yeah, working.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know.
Working is eating croissants and drinking mate.
Well, I just remember after his election how the people there were having a little conniption fit and complaining, and I just thought, oh, for the love of God, please fire all these people. We do not need some government propaganda outlet in Argentina. Okay, what about dollarization or the fixed exchange rate, right? Again, are these matters outside of his control? Because many people outside, I mean, the big stereotype is that Argentina's inflation, the peso is a joke. Why don't we just either dollarize or at very least remove all phony exchange rates?
I think, the monetary topic, it's a very sensitive topic, because we were in such a dire situation with, we still have negative reserves at the central bank. There was an unsurmountable amount of regulation along the the forex market. So far, this year has been very stable. The US dollar to the peso, it's almost pegged 1,000 to 1. So in January, you'd pay 1,100 pesos for or 1,000 pesos for a dollar. Now it's almost the same. It's 1,100 pesos for a dollar. So in a context of this year, we're going to close it with around 100% annual inflation, and the dollar or the peso didn't depreciate.
Just 100%, that's all right.
Just 100%, which is an improvement from the 240% last year. The peso stopped depreciating and inflation continued to persisted. The Argentine peso has appreciated, and it's like the strongest currency for this year. But going back to your question, I think that we're like in a stabilization phase of the government. Like we were on the brink of hyperinflation. So
yes, yeah.
And there is this capital controls. So you have to undo all that, but you have to do it like very surgically to avoid any, unexpected consequences, such as a run to the dollar.
For mining stock recommendations, one newsletter I read is Global Analyst by Adrian Day, and I'm more than pleased to direct other people to his insights. Receive a 10% discount when you subscribe with the FERG coupon code. Go to adriandayglobalanalyst.com and click subscribe at the top right. You can also call the US phone number 410-224-8885 and mention the FERG code. That is adriandayglobalanalyst.com. You can also click the link below or in the show notes. Thank you.
The dollarization or liberalization of the forex or currency markets is a work in progress. It's proceeding, okay. And Just as a little bit of context, folks, I lived in Argentina 2016, 2017. And when I got there, the official exchange rate was, I think, 5.5 pesos or 6 pesos to the dollar. And on the black market rate was about 15. So you could go officially, and every dollar you would give them would give you about $6, 6 pesos back. But on the black market, you could get 15. And obviously, it's now 1,000, right? So $1 can get you 1,000 pesos. That's a huge difference in 8 years or so. Now, but as you say, people have become so accustomed to inflation in Argentina that even just getting down to 100%, yes, some like an improvement. And there are various ways to go about that. And as you say, liberalizing or just deregulating is one way to curb inflation just through productivity, just through availability. And even minor changes do add up. I still remember years ago, I lived up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, and drove down to New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is known as basically the freest state in the United States, or one of them, along with Wyoming. And I just could not believe when I went to the supermarket the array of products. It was just incredible to see how, and a lot of them were basically mom and pop shops, right? Because deregulation means that smaller businesses can come in and compete. It was really impressive to me to see all the small businesses that were present. So, okay, let's another maybe pet project to me would be deprivatizing Aerolíneas Argentinas. What's going on with that? Because I'll just tell you, if you want to go and buy a flight with them, you go to the offices in Buenos Aires, and people, I hate to say it, they feel like they want to commit suicide. They hate their lives so much, and they just sit there doing nothing basically all day. So it's a very kind of like antiquated system. And but apparently they were afraid of, because what was the story that he was going to basically give them part ownership in the company? And did that ever happen?
Well, Aerolíneas Argentina, let's put this in context, is the government-run airline.
Yes.
It was privatized back in the 90s, then was expropriated again in the early 2000s. And it ran the last, I think it was in the last 10 or 15 years, the government spent $8 billion to cover the deficit of the company. So they spend the same, with that amount of money, they could buy American Airlines right now. The market cap is at 10 billion.
It's kind of like the Amtrak or U.S. Postal Service, both these albatrosses here in the United States, which is getting bankrolled by the federal government to exist. Yeah.
Yeah, but the worst thing here is that there was a lot of regulations built around the airline to harm other companies and prevent competition from other companies. They would have almost a virtual monopoly and prices to fly here in Argentina, which is a huge country, and airplanes should be the means of transportation for people who want to travel more than, let's say, 300, 400 kilometers. They were unaffordable. So what happened is that this was another company that was included in the bill to privatize. I think it was rejected as well, so it's not included. But the government has moved forward, starting a plan to retire some of the employees and to fire some other employees and to undo all these regulations that were blocking competition. So and they started like a fight with the unions, which are the largest resistance in the company, and they're very combative. So they just said, yes, if you don't stop doing strikes and bothering people, like they're causing problems. People have to travel for health issues, for medical issues, whatever. We will close the company next week. Because I don't know if like you might need a bill to privatize the company, but I don't know if you need a bill to close it. So as you said, one of the campaign promises of Milei was gifting the company to the employees. So if they love, because it's almost a matter of pride here for some Argentinians, for collectivists. They feel really pride about our flagship airline, and they say, okay, you love the company, we'll give it to you for free. We won't send you any. Maybe we'll send you some money the first year, and then you have to be on your own and make it profitable. So after that threat, like the unions and employees they don't really want to get the company. They just want to get and to extract the money from the government. So now situation has improved, but the plan is it's still a work in progress. And I believe that before Milei's term ends, maybe even next year, we're gonna see big news in this topic.
Yeah, so Adam's right. Argentina is such a vast country. People forget that. There are about 45 million people, maybe more now. I lose track, but it would be not the size of Canada, but it would be almost as large as the United States. I mean, it's a really big, vast land. A lot of it is empty. And so what happens is that when you have such a tightly regulated airline environment with so few options, basically just aerolíneas argentinas, people will bus incredible distances, right? And even I did this. I bus something like 18 or 20 hours once to get from where I was staying to Buenos Aires, just because it was, 1/5 the price of taking an airline ticket. And the buses become more sophisticated and they offer food. It's kind of like being on a plane, right? So, okay, now I know of a gentleman who has moved to Argentina from Australia. Is he nuts? What's the future now? Is Argentina really on the way up? What's going on?
Well, I think so, because after 70 years of socialism in Argentina, there is a lot of opportunities to make businesses down here now that the business environment and the business the business environment is improving. So I think there is a lot of untapped markets here, and when I can't even know what the future will bring us, because I think that's one of the best things about being a libertarian, is that you don't know what's going to be the future. You don't know what people is going to do with their entrepreneurial instinct. So when people ask me, like, how do you see the economy in 1, 2, 3 years? So what's the economic model of the country? I'd say I always tell them that I don't know. I don't know what like, yes, we know that we have a lot of oil and gas in Patagonia. We have lithium in the north. There is copper, gold, silver mines in near the border with Chile, which are a lot of markets that are right now booming. But as for the day-to-day economy and in what niches Argentina will excel, I'm not sure I can tell you about.
Well, do you want to discuss maybe the impact or role of the classical liberal or just liberal community in Argentina, the intellectual community? I know Eduardo Marti, and maybe I should have invited him on too. Maybe we can get him on in a future episode, but he's done great work over the decades trying to build an intellectual community who really understand natural rights and property and will not be intimidated by all this leftist rhetoric. Has that really trickled down to the broader society?
You mean if the society has welcomed this new libertarian
yeah, well, let me just clarify this, because there are two other famous episodes in history of rapid deregulation. One is my native country, New Zealand, in the 1980s, and the other is Chile in the 1970s. Now, in both instances, these weren't really done out of the will of the people. They were more just some people in power had the right ideas and just ran with it. And what happened is that after these people left power, the problems just came back, basically. But I know that Eduardo and other people in Argentina have really worked hard to try to cultivate, let's say, an ideological environment where the people won't just rush back to the same mistakes again. Has that actually worked at all?
I said that what the classical liberals, the work that they were doing before Milei, was very valuable work. They have impact on people. But I think that Milei took over like a tsunami, and he really started like awakening people and starting to allow them to see the nature of the state, how markets work, how not even, I'd say, libertarian principles, but how normal economies, free market oriented economies work, and I think that like the one of the main points that he made and that people got very receptive is that he kind of became the champion of the people against the politicians, and he would like outright swear at politicians, telling them that they are like I don't want to pollute.
Cerdos, parásitos,
Yeah. So very hard language towards them, and so,
other foul words.
Yeah. So I think that people really like that because they were sick and tired of what we were living the last 8 years, that we were like recession, recovery, recession again. So like the last 15 years, Argentina it's kind of stagnant. The GDP has virtually no growth. So I think was more out of necessity and the need for a change, and Milei offered that change, than suddenly like 50% or 60% of Argentines like read Mises, read Hayek, and became libertarians. But I think that the way of thinking of the average Argentine has shifted towards a much more market-friendly perspective than it was like 10 or 15 years ago. And this was like 100% Milei's work on TV, what he calls the cultural battle. So I say that was what really marks a change in society, and that's why now some of the classical liberal community that was like the libertarians before Milei are quite envious about Milei.
Oh, you think so? Wow.
Yes, okay. I think so. Like, imagine you have been preaching the words, the classical liberalism for the last 30, 40, 50 years, dedicated your life to this, and suddenly comes this man out of nowhere, who like 15 years, 20 years ago, he was just a Keynesian or a neoclassical economist, and then he reads Mises and Rothbard, and he gets red pill by Austrian economists, and he becomes like the libertarian leader of the world. So imagine yourself, how would you feel? Like, hey, I've been doing this for 40, 50 years, and I have not made impact, and this guy comes from nowhere, and he suddenly becomes a rock star, and everyone's talking. Like this year, Rothbard was on the cover of a magazine here.
Adam, thanks so much for explaining that, and I agree that he has to some degree upstaged people, right? He's overshadowed them, but ideally, if we really care about the outcomes and freedom for Argentina and opening the economy, that it shouldn't matter who gets the credit for it, just the fact that it happens. And it is true that because he was so explicit and open about it, that is a much healthier process than the way it happened in Chile or in New Zealand, where it just wasn't really on the campaign agenda. And I'm shocked when I see all these images of him going against and pulling things off the wall and saying, fuera, fuera, right? And he's going, out with you. And I'm going, how did this guy get elected? This is amazing, This is incredible. So it is a fascinating time to be alive. And in many ways, he has almost brought this Rothbardian populist liberty message to, and that was promoted, 30 odd years ago before Rothbard passed away. So he really took that to heart. And okay, well, Adam, do you want to talk about people? So let's say we agree with you and think, you know what, maybe Argentina really has turned the corner, that the people there are smart and they realize the errors of their ways in the past or whatever, and the unions are going to get pulled apart, which would be amazing for the economy. You are a financial entrepreneur. How could foreigners maybe get in on the action? Would it only be through private equity, or would you actually recommend getting involved with the Argentine stock market?
The stock market has been flying the last year.
So the good times, the big money has been taken. Yeah.
Well, bonds were priced at 0.2 a year ago, like 20 cents on the dollar. Now
80% discount. Wow. Okay.
An 80% discount, and now they are around, I think it's around 60, so it's a 40% discount
And
a
even on paper, they offering was a 7% dividend or something like that, 7% coupon rate.
yes, I think so. Yeah, it depends on
And
the
they're
bond,
still
but yeah.
they're discounted. So what's the actual yield on those? What, 15% or something ridiculous? I mean, I guess this is in pesos, so who the hell knows what it is? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you have both. You have denominated in pesos and US dollars, and we use this swap between with bonds from pesos to dollars to get USD here because it's like everyone goes to the stock market to buy dollars. And
Yes, well, you noted too just that the fact that money markets, and I should just maybe for people who are not familiar, these are just highly liquid short-term bonds that allow people to hold cash but get access to it when they want to, with getting at least some small return on that cash rather than being eaten away by inflation. So, but do you want to talk about whether there are any other vehicles? What is, I mean, to be frank, forgive me, but I'm not really an expert on what goes, the public markets of Argentina. So what are the big ticket items there?
well, Argentine stock market is a very small market right now. We don't have a lot of companies, and there's such only a few companies that you would say they are really like blue chip companies. But what, like if you look into the banking sector with Galicia, with Banco Macro, risen like 400%, 500% over the last year. And these are like kind of blue chip banks. No, it's not a penny stock that
Whoa,
we're talking about.
whoa.
Same with energy sector, with Pampa and YPF. The YPF stock was trading at, let me check right now, it's around $40. No, but I believe that we are in, although we are at all-time highs in almost every stock you look in here, we are just in the normalization phase of the economy. So companies are recovering market value right now, but growth hasn't started yet. So I think there is still a path to go in the local market.
Okay, folks. So yeah, we've been speaking with Adam Dubove, and I know I'm probably butchering your last name. Do you say Dubove in Espanol, in Spanish?
Yes, it's Ubobe.
Dubove. Yeah, I always just say Dubove. That's just probably terrible of me. But follow him on X. He's active. He's got a great following there, and he tweets in both Spanish and English. And his financial firm is Ichimoku Fibonacci, and he has a newsletter, lots of services. He assists with people making international transactions. So I encourage people to check him out. I trust him, obviously. That's why I've got him on. He's an old friend. So otherwise, Adam, maybe is there any other message, take-home message, because there's such a fascinating story here that maybe you want to leave an international audience with?
I like to go back what you said before, what Milei said in campaign, like that. I think that's a key issue. That Milei's a very genuine, honest person. Uh, Maybe like investors say, a bit over the spectrum, and because of that, I believe that's. I mean, I believe that's an advantage for him because every single other president it's a sociopath, so I rather have an Asperger than a sociopath. But I'd say and that's, I think that's the most interesting thing on Milei. So now that's why now he has a 57% of the people support him here, even with the recession we are just ending these days, and with inflation, with ongoing inflation, but because he spoke with the truth, and he said it's going to be a hard year. We're going to use the chainsaw. We are going to go through a transition, and it's going to be hard. And because people were treated like responsible adults,
Adults,
telling
yeah.
them the truth, they now say, "Okay, he delivered. It's true. We're going through hard times, but things are looking better." So I think it's important to. Unlike most of the politicians listening to Milei, who might indicate what he is looking into moving forward.
Okay. Well, Adam, we'll have to get you back on again in another year's time to examine this trajectory. Folks, check him out on X and through his financial firm. Adam, thank you for your time, buddy.
Great to be here, Frick.